Can you hear me now? Can people hear me now? Is that, yep? Okay, perfect. Do people want me to start from the beginning if they've missed that? Yep, okay, brilliant. Let's start from the beginning. I'm so sorry that you couldn't hear me. All right, can people see and hear me? Can I just get a quick round of a yes, please? Perfect. Okay, brilliant. Thanks so much. Okay. I'm really excited to be doing this training today. My name is Khadija. I'm a digital community organizer for London. I'm so sorry you didn't get to hear me those first 3 minutes, but I'm hoping that today's training is going to help link some of the campaigns, the training that you've already had with my colleagues, the community organizers. There's digital training and community organizing training. And the idea of this training is to hopefully link those concepts and those ideas that you've already received together. This digital campaigns training should also help conceptualize what this will look like for you locally. What do we mean by a digital campaign, and how can you take that away to the local campaigns and the key issues that you want to tackle in your local areas. And it should also help offer some practical guidance on editing video specifically for social media. I know Alex, who did the last digital training, talks a little bit about the key concepts and the pillars of digital community organizing and video, and so hopefully this training will give you some practical ideas on how you can do that. And finally, if you have any questions at all throughout, please feel free to put them in the chat. I'll do my best to get back to them, but I also have my email at the end of this slide, so should you have any questions that pop up later, feel free to ask those there. Hopefully we're all good now. So sorry about the sound at the beginning, but it looks like we're on track at the moment. So first things first, I thought I'd just give a little recap of what Alex talked about in his social media training. If you missed it, I believe that you can catch the recording of it, but this is just a quick recap of the key core principles that he talked about that I'll go through again in this training. The first is to always think about why you are posting what you want to post, particularly on social media, whether that's on your campaign or whether that's as a Labour Party member in CLP pages, etc. Why would someone want to share or engage with the content that you created? The idea is that you really need to think about why someone would want to share that on their timeline, share that with their friends, share that with their family. The ask needs to be really clear. How can that person help you in your campaign? How can they help push your asks further? The second thing to think about specifically with video is what the hook is. Now, the hook is something that will grab the person's attention. Our timelines consist of basically companies and political parties and adverts that are fighting for your attention. And the hook is a 2-second piece that will grab the person's attention and direct them to continue watching the video for your campaign. The third thing to think about are personal stories and the local narrative. Now, I absolutely guarantee you that personal stories is what is going to win you your campaign. It's a thing that has made people join a political party. It's what politicizes people. It's what grounds, abstract concepts to something that is personal and emotional. And once you yank on people's emotions and make them really think about, for example, the impact of a specific Tory policy on a family, or whether it be a local narrative or something, like a community playground that people grew up with and what that would mean for local families and people who grew up in that environment their entire lives. Those personal stories is what grabs people. It's what inspires change. And so I will talk a little bit more about how we can come to these personal stories online and how we can work with those to create content that really moves people to change. The fourth thing to just go over again is that, I'll keep banging on about this, but video content is still the most popular medium to share a message, and it's something that we need to prioritize and pour all of our energy and resources into for our digital campaigns. And finally, always think about what platform you're using. Why are you using it? Who are you going to be targeting? it's really important that we try not to reinvent the wheel with these campaigns, specifically online. We need to work with the platform, we need to work with the algorithms, and if you find, for example, that everyone that you are trying to mobilize uses Facebook, then try not to, create social media channels on Twitter or on Instagram. It's important that you work with the people in your campaign and you also work with the platform. So if it's on Facebook, utilize tagging, utilize the comment feature, and that will boost your content and it will get it much further. So that was a quick little recap. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them down in the chat. Now on to a digital campaign timeline specifically. Now, this isn't set in stone. It's something that, I've worked in a couple of different campaigns in my job so far, and this is what I've come to find is the digital campaign timeline. And it's something that sort of works as a key kind of time frame that I can work towards. I know that I'm hitting certain milestones. I know that I'm moving in a certain direction towards the win, which we all want in a digital campaign. Something that's really important to note, and I can't stress this enough, is that digital campaigns rarely exist in isolation. They need to be rooted and synchronized with the work that you're already doing on the ground. And what I mean by that is you'll be working with people who have already started on this campaign. For example, if it's on school cuts, and there have been mothers for decades who have been, talking about school cuts and have sort of laid the groundwork there. You need to be working with these communities. You need to be working with these people. You also need to make sure that the work that you do online is, synchronized and works really well with the work that people are doing offline, and that the messaging is unified. It will be really detrimental to your campaign if you split off and, start working on content that doesn't really echo what people are saying on the ground. It's really important that the online and the offline are deeply linked together so that you can achieve that win. So for this timeline, of course, you need to start off with identifying the key issue. And I'll go through this again in an example so it can help you visualize what that would look like. But when we talk about identifying a key issue, this is something that is very specific and it's quite winnable. So for example, of course, we can't say saving the NHS. That would, be very hard to galvanize people behind that. People will feel quite deflated quite early on in the campaign, and it's not specific and it's not clear. But for example, if it's saving the local hospital, the A&E unit, that's something that's quite specific and it's hopefully quite winnable if you plan it correctly with the community organizing training that Iman delivered. But identifying the key issue is the start of your digital campaign and your offline campaign. It's what you're going to build people around, and it's the core of what you want to achieve in your local community. So once you've identified the key issue, you need to identify the key leaders and who your campaign is targeting. Now, this works in two different ways. Identifying your key leaders can be the leaders that have already existed in this campaign, like I mentioned before. If you've noticed that there are Facebook groups where people are, talking about that issue, people have had these discussions, the infrastructure's already been set up online, then it's important that you join those discussions. For example, if someone has a Facebook group and it's got a couple hundred members in there, invite the group admin for a coffee to talk about their campaign plan, how it's already been working for them, what worked for them, what didn't work for them. And that's a key example of linking the offline with the online there. That's inviting a digital leader offline to talk about the campaign and how you can move it forward. You can also identify key leaders who might not necessarily be that obvious, but the key leaders, you will always know that they are the leaders because they turn up. They engage with what you're proposing, they care deeply, and it affects them directly. Those are the type of people that you want on your campaign to be the core leaders that are going to push it forward. Now for who the campaign is targeting, with every campaign there is a big baddie, the bad guy, a clear enemy. And it's really important that you narrow that down into one group so that it's easy for people to follow on and it's easy for people to direct their content and their campaign in a certain way. And I'll talk about tactics that we can use in digital campaigns for that specifically. And I'll talk about that again in an example a little bit later on. The third thing is to compile asks. What is the win? How are we going to win this campaign? You need to aim big, you need to be bold. This is what is going to win your campaign. Don't ask for small things, ask for big things, because that is how people can feel motivated to change, because they want to imagine that. They want to be able to be a part of that life-changing thing that will impact the entire community. They don't want it to just impact a few people. You're asking for people's time, you're asking potentially for people's money, you're asking for personal contributions to this campaign. So make sure that the asks are big, and again, the asks need to come from that community itself, and it's really important that we respect that. The fourth thing is content creation. So once you've identified the key issue, you have your key leaders who turn up to the meetings, who are offering fresh ideas and are really keen to help out, and you've got your big baddie. You have the asks that you've compiled together. This is how we're going to win our campaign, and this is what we want. The fourth thing that you want to start thinking about is creating that content online. Again, and I keep emphasizing this, but video is incredibly important. Collecting those personal testimonials from people. If we go back to the hospital example, someone who's used that A&E time and time again, someone whose life has been saved by that particular unit, for example, filming with that person individually and sharing that story online will go much further than you think. Personal stories travel so much further than anything else that you could possibly produce, and we keep emphasizing this. Embedding the narrative locally and into the community, and posting regularly, whether that's through your local Labour Party page or whether that's through a social media campaign page that you've already come up with. You need to work out what is most appropriate for a lot of people who are not necessarily members of a political party, don't want to be affiliated with the political party. If you need to consider people's safety, these are all things that you need to consider when thinking about whether to do it through a local Labour Party page or whether it's through a grassroots organic a page that you've created with the community. The fifth thing is a distribution network. So the great thing about those leaders is that they'll bring more people in, and when we train those leaders will then go off and train other people, and it will be an incredible cycle where your network expands further and further and your campaign reaches more and more people, which leads on to the sixth thing of training. We offer great digital video training, social media and video training that we can hopefully branch out into your CLPs if you're interested. Again, I'll leave my email there, but that training is there so that you can pass on those digital skills to other people and, develop local people and community members. A key thing to remember as well with the distribution network is that those are people who are going to push out your content out of an echo chamber. Like I said, working with the algorithm, so tagging people who aren't necessarily in the campaign but will be interested in the campaign, and pushing it out of the local boundary as well. So if someone has a similar issue, say you're in London and someone has a similar issue in Yorkshire, being able to link those campaigns and distribute effectively through people is the best way that you'll get your content out there. And finally, the big thing that we all really want in our local campaigns is the win. And I've been doing this for about a year now, and this timeline almost definitely leads to a win. And I'll talk about some of the active campaigns that we're working on now, and I hope they excite you as much as they excite me, because there's a lot of key lessons that we can learn from the communities that we work with. The first case study that I'd like to talk about is Clyde House. So Clyde House is a social housing block in Putney, which is a marginal here in London, and this is a key example. I will talk through the digital campaign timeline with you using the example of Clyde House. So I'd say about February this year, we were, scrolling through our Twitter feeds, and we came across this tweet, and it's from a resident in Clyde House called Siobhan. She tweeted, I didn't want to do this, but I'm currently living in a death trap. I'm afraid that we will be the next Grenfell. I'm a resident at Clyde House, which is a social housing block under A2 Dominion Group. We need them to take this seriously before the building goes up in flames. Her tweet went viral, and that's how we managed to find her. So what we did then was we messaged her, we went for a coffee, we had a phone call to talk about what was happening in the block and to scope out the key issue that was happening in that local community, which is the first point here. We identified the key issue. And this is a key thing to think about as well. We're not just posting or creating content here. We're embedded in the communities that we serve, and we're spotting these key issues, whether they be offline or online. We're actively sort of scouting what is affecting local people and how we can help. So this is a key issue that we found online. And once we've had those conversations with Siobhan, she then invited us to meet other campaign leaders. So in that picture there's Kerry and there's Sabiha. They are women who also live in this block and who had been knocking on everyone's doors in the block so that they can alert them to this issue. There was water dripping in the electrical cupboards. Children were absolutely terrified of what was going to happen, and their safety was really sort of compromised by A2 Dominion Group, and they decided that enough was enough. Some of them had been living in these conditions for 6 years. So Siobhan, who initially did the tweet, identified those key leaders for us. We then had coffees with them, and we started to understand the situation in Clyde House much better. The next thing that was clearly evident was who we were targeting, and that was A2 Dominion. A2 Dominion were the people responsible for their safety. They were responsible for that social housing block. People had done their research on A2 Dominion, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but, well, actually, I'll talk about it now. What we noticed with A2 Dominion was that this wasn't just an isolated issue in Putney, this was actually happening across the UK. And so we were able to identify people who were already doing this work against A2 Dominion, this housing campaign, and we were able to link different blocks across the UK. So with A2 Dominion, that was a very clear big bad guy that we were going to target so that we could get safer housing for these families. It's important to note that in Clyde House, a lot of these families were single mothers, refugees, people who were escaping violent homes, so they were particularly vulnerable, and we had to treat the campaign as such. So whether that was protecting people's identities or making sure that, when we're filming with them, we cover their faces or, distort the voice, whatever it is, that we need to ensure that, first and foremost, we need to protect their safety in this campaign. So once we've identified those key leaders, once we've targeted or we found who the bad guy is, we then went off and started compiling the asks. Now, this has to come again from the community. They asked for, a refurbishment of their homes. There was black mold that was putting their children in A&E. They asked to be either rehoused somewhere safe, and they had a very clear timeline of when that should have been done. What you can see in that picture there is a negotiation they had with one of the managing directors to make sure that they commit to those asks then and there. And if they didn't do it then they had to give them a specific timeline of when they could do it. And again, that's a training that we deliver, a negotiation training. They'd never done a negotiation in their lives before, and they did amazingly through a very key set of ideas that we passed on through that training. The fourth thing then is content creation, and I'll stop talking soon, I promise, and let you watch this video. Now, this is a video that we worked with residents on. It's a video that basically documents what's happened in Clyde House. Now, Siobhan's tweet already went viral, but people wanted updates and wanted to know what was happening. Alex talked about some of the key principles with video here, and then we can go over them again. This video is subtitled, so if the sound doesn't work quite well, then you'll still definitely be able to tell what is going on. We target specifically who we mentioned specifically who we're targeting in this. So you can see there in the tweet, let's make sure Andrew Evans, the Executive Director, knows that the country is watching, retweet this now. So we have a very clear storyline here. The crux of what we do as community organizers is tell stories, and this is one of them. So I'll show you this video now. and let's do our best. There we go. So that was the Clyde House video there. I'll leave the link so that you'll be able to watch it again in your own time. But this video, again, did very well, and that was by using the packaging that we used. There was a hook, and that was this woman who was saying that Grenfell can never happen again, and you won't let this happen to us. There was a very clear storyline there of who the bad guy was. We used their own quote against them. Lilith, the woman who was sharing her story about how her son can't get to sleep and how awful that makes her feel, and then a very clear ask at the end that these people need to know that you stand with them, so you need to share this video. And what was incredible about the way that this video spread was that when we, at A2 Dominion specifically in this video, we target them, and when people quote tweet, that means that they also get another mention in their inbox. And that happened again and again. This video got nearly 2,000 retweets, it got 1.3 likes, over 500,000 impressions, and basically 70,000 views. So that meant that the more people engaged with this video, the more that A2 Dominion received a mention and knew about the work that we're doing. It's really important that with content creation, you update those bad guys on how you're winning, and that you're not staying silent and that you're doing something. Another example I'd really like to share with you is one that my colleague is doing in Yorkshire. She is targeting First Bus because they're charging extortionate prices, they're cutting bus routes to local people, and it's really affecting their lives. So what they did was this mass campaign to lower the ratings of First Bus on Facebook and on Google, and they did that by getting lots of local people behind this campaign, got them really excited about the asks and the potential win that they'd get out of it. And of course, with any business or brand that you might be targeting, their image is incredibly important to them. And just like with A2 Dominion, they kept releasing press statements about how they're fixing Clyde House and it's their top priority, and that wouldn't have happened if we didn't target them online like we did. And so with First Bus, lots of people started giving 0 to 1 ratings, and that pushed their ratings right down on Google and on Facebook. And for any brand, that is obviously detrimental. And so these are some of the ways that you can target those bad guys online and really use it to help your digital campaign. And these are some lovely pictures from the trainings that we did with residents of Clyde House. I think possibly my favorite part of the job, and something that I think is really beautiful about the work that we're doing, is that we essentially want to work ourselves out of a job. We shouldn't be there doing these videos. We shouldn't be there doing the negotiations and the power trainings. It should come from local people. And so here you can see Siobhan, she's doing a video training that we did with her, which I'll go into a little bit later. We did some power training there, so they're mapping what to do next, who to target, who's on side, who isn't on side. And we got them in this room, people from across the UK. So for example, there's one person who has a Facebook group against A2 Dominion, which has 400 members. And again, it's about tapping into those communities. We invited him for a coffee. He came to this training and he passed on those details to the members of that Facebook group and also to the people in his block. And so we're building people and we're developing people on their skills, and that's a really important part of what we do as community organizers, and what I hope that you do in your local communities as well. So we've developed a distribution network here. That was point number 5. We've trained people, point number 6, and we're well on our way to a win soon. Like I said, this is an active campaign, so we're still creating content and we're still winning for local people slowly but surely. Next, I'll just go over some practical tips to editing a video. Now, I did screen record this, but for some reason it wouldn't upload. So hopefully I can send around that video again separately so that you can understand it a little bit better. But here I'll just talk about some key apps that you can use to share those local stories or to share your own story. All you need is a smartphone, and if you have a microphone, that would be amazing, but using the key concepts that we've shared with you is essentially how you can get a viral video. You don't need flashy equipment, you just need a good story. So here we're editing a video of a guy who just joined the Labour Party. This was the hook I gave him. This text changed his life, quite naff, but it will do the job. And he essentially joined the Labour Party because he received a text about a campaign. He'd already joined the Labour Party, but it was the first time that he wanted to get involved because it was a text inviting him to join a campaign, and that was something that he cared about. So he talks about that a little bit in this video. So we've got the video, we then import the video. This app specifically is called Clips, but you could use iMovie on the iPhone. UCut on the Android is even easier to use, so I focused on Clips just here. So once you've imported the video in, what you would then do is click on Effects, which is a tab, just underneath the video that you've imported. Then you would click on Labels, and then you'd pick a text. There are loads of cool different fonts, lots of cool different effects that you could add to this video to make it look like it's been professionally edited, essentially. And the idea is that you subtitle absolutely everything. 80% of people don't watch video with sound, and so you really want to make sure that people are able to get the message from the video without having to click on it. So that's subtitling there. Another amazing function of Clips is live subtitling. And there's a video of me that unfortunately you cannot see. Fortunately, maybe, but here I'm using the live text function, and all you've got to do is point the camera to the person you're filming or yourself, start talking into the camera, and naturally, because it might not be able to pick up different accents or different sounds, then what you do and what you can do is double click on the text or click on the live text function after you've finished recording, and then you'll be able to edit any changes. For example, if someone's name was spelt wrong, or if there needs to be any adjustments to the punctuation, you can do that all within the app. You can add music, and really importantly as well, you can make it square, which is the best way that you can get videos to look the biggest on social media, and for them to be shared. So that is the editing videos using the Clips app. You could use the iMovie function as well. It's very similar and very intuitive. And if you have any questions at all about this specific part of the training, please do let me know. And hopefully, if you are interested in video training, this is a whole training in and of itself, then please do email me, and hopefully we can put you into contact with a local digital community organizer who could train you to train your local community and help you win that campaign. Now, another case study that I'd love to share with you is one on campaign social media. So you've got these videos, you've got this amazing distribution network that are really ready to share your content, and you've made, for example, you've identified that most people are on Facebook, so you've made a Facebook page, or you've identified that there's a certain demographic that you think would be really interested, but they all exist on Instagram. So an active campaign that I'm also working on in the cities of London and Westminster is the Save Cundy Street and Walden House campaign. Now, these are a group of people who are a mixture of social housing and private rent. They're a real range of people who all live in really close proximity to each other, and their homes are basically at threat of being knocked down by the Duke of Westminster. And the homes are perfectly fine. The Cundy Street flats are actually in lots of art magazines because they're, they're a work of art, and the buildings are absolutely fine. People have lived there their entire lives, and it's essentially what a lot of people are saying who live there: social cleansing and uprooting of local communities. So they've identified the key issue here. They've found the key leaders, people who are ready to fight and pour in a lot of time and energy into this campaign, and they've set up their Facebook and Instagram pages, and they've done an incredible job of it, and I'll talk a little bit about the wins that we've had so far. So what you can see on the left there is their Instagram page, and so they recognized that the Cundy Street flats are, they've won so many awards for architecture. They're such stunning flats, and so they've taken pictures of them in really beautiful angles. They then went on different social media channels and saw photographers who'd taken pictures of the building that they live in. They tagged those photographers, they tagged those architecture magazines and art and life magazines, and followed them and engaged with their audiences so that they could get them behind this campaign to, if not save them for the people living there, then to at least save the architecture that, will be a real loss to the local community and to the art scene, I guess you could say. So there you could see on their Instagram, they've got lots of artsy shots of the buildings. They've also got shots of people campaigning, people door knocking, making it look fun and making it look like something that people would want to get involved in. And the key part here as well is the testimonials. So they've got, beautiful pictures and videos of people sharing their stories of living there, what they love most about living in Cundy Street and Walden House, what they're going to miss the most. There was a woman who shared some childhood pictures, and she stood in exactly the same spot that they were taken, and it was a beautiful sort of testimonial of why it's so important that these flats stay there for the people that live there currently. So you can see they've done essentially a Humans of SW1 that they called it, and as a caption they've got the stories of these people and why it's so important that they continue to live there. So they've also transferred some of the work onto the Facebook page, but also they've included key updates in the campaign. Now, again, this is really important so that people don't feel deflated, that you update people on the successes of your campaign, what went well, how we're winning, for example, addition of new people to your campaign. Update people, make sure that your posts are regular and that they're, powerful, that they make people look powerful. That's a really important part. It's the crux of, again, what we do at community organizing. We don't want them to feel really sad or really hopeless. The idea is that we make people look and feel powerful in the content that we post, because they are, and we should really promote that. So that's their Facebook and their Instagram. Again, it's an ongoing campaign, but they are getting wins and they are posting about it. And one of those wins actually is they did a change.org petition. We don't usually love petitions because we want, like direct actions, and we want them to, really build towards a big win. But for them, this was a huge win. They got, I think nearly 100,000 signatures on change.org now, and that happened within a matter of days. And it's because of the way that they frame this messaging. It was, don't let the Duke of Westminster demolish our homes. Their asks were very clear. They were already posting content. They could direct people to what was happening into their campaign and how people could get involved. And this is a very simple way of getting people involved. And we're also able to update people in this campaign through their emails. Ideally, you could do that through labor tools, through Organise. That would be the best way, so that we could capture that data and update people in different ways. But because the Safe Cundy Street and Walden House campaign was apolitical because of the people that lived there, this was a way that they could do it. And Change.org themselves reached out to these campaign leaders and basically promoted it on their channels, and that's why it shot up to nearly 100,000 in a matter of days. And it's really exciting for local people, and again, it's these small wins that you update people on your campaign socials. So that now takes us to the summary of this training. I'll just go over some key points. If you have any questions, please put them down in the chat. But the key things that I wanted you to take away from this is that your digital plan is a guide. The timeline that I included in this presentation isn't set in stone. The idea is that you're able to adapt and mold to the different changes that will happen in your campaign, but that your asks and that your goal is very clear so that you don't confuse people. So use that as a guide. And if you found anything that really worked for you in your local community, please do email me about it. I'd love to adapt that timeline to the different campaigns that we're running and have used using the community organizing strategy. The second thing is to develop community members. This is, again, what we really care about and what we want to focus on. We don't want to have to be doing the job there. We should be developing local people and equipping them with those skills so that they're able to take control of their own narrative and really win and take ownership over their campaigns. The third thing is to be really consistent with content. I know, for example, the first thing that I check when I'm about to like or follow someone is when was the last time that they've posted. We do care about consistent content. I guess you could say that people liking or following you is a commitment, and it's sort of important for you to honor that and update them with content. It doesn't need to always be a really flashy video that you've made. It could be a picture, it could be a text post, a quick subtitling video that you've done, but update people on why it's important that we don't lose momentum in this campaign and that people continue to support you. The fourth thing is always remember to hook and subtitle in your videos. That is what will get it to be shared in the fastest way. If you've captured an incredible story of a local person in your community, please don't waste it by just uploading it. Put in that extra work, because with that extra work it will go so much further and it will really benefit your campaign, as well as the ask. So always include an ask share at the end. Share to da-da-da-da-da. If you share, then da-da-da-da-da kind of thing. So it really helps people understand how their contribution to sharing will really help your campaign. The fifth thing is to develop your distribution network. So let it grow. Get those key leaders to add 5 of their friends, 10 of their friends, and I don't mean personal friends, but people that they've engaged with in their campaign. They will have met people in those circles who will care. People across the UK, of course, will naturally sympathise with a local issue that's impacting people in your area. So how can we find and innovate different ways to bring those people on board, have them in different Slack channels, Facebook groups, WhatsApp groups, where we can make them feel like they're in an exclusive hub that has specifically come together to share that content that you've worked hard on. Let them know why it's so important that we push them out in those distribution networks that we personally have, and why it's important that people continue to share. How will that directly impact your campaign and get you to win? And finally, and the most important thing that we all really want in all of our campaigns, online and offline, is to go out there and win. Using these tools, using these key concepts and ideas is how you will win your campaigns. I hope you found this training really helpful. I've got my email right here. Please do email me with any questions that you might have. If you want access to specific resources that we've used, whether in this slide or ones that you've heard about in previous webinar trainings from the community organizing team. It's been an absolute pleasure to share some of these tips and these campaigns that we're working on at the moment. And I cannot wait to hear about the campaigns that you get up to online. So again, please do share them on my email. Thank you so much for participating and being a part of this training today, and hopefully I will be hearing about your campaign wins very soon. Thank you so much. Bye.